Hey guys, welcome back to the Xplor Show. Today's episode, we will dive deep into the dynamic world of the mobile truck repair business with TruckUp, a trailblazing company revolutionizing roadside assistance for the trucking industry in Kansas City and beyond. Joining us is their founder and CEO, Caleb. Caleb, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. Caleb, tell us a little bit about, you're an established entrepreneur. You started several businesses, and what kind of got you into the truck industry and interested in this field that you guys are now in?
Yeah. So I went to college. I got a 4-year degree. I went through that rather fast. I got a 4-year degree in 2 years. And
4-year degree in 2 years?
yeah, I knocked out a bunch of courses. I was doing quite a few hours. One summer I did
Holy cow.
25 hours, I think.
Whoa. Did you just not enjoy school?
I did a semester at MU and there was a lot of partying there. So I ended up leaving the first semester and then just coming back and knocking it out. I've always been ambitious and, it's more or less just getting the work done. It doesn't really prepare you for the real world, I should say. So I guess I just wanted to get started.
You were ready to jump into entrepreneurship and really get out there and start doing stuff.
Yeah.
So hang on. How old were you when you graduated college? And you were still probably 20?
Yeah, I think did I graduate 20? I graduated high school in 2002 and then college in 2004.
Okay.
So 21, yeah.
Wow. Damn. That's the first person I've ever heard to go through college in 2 years. That is impressive.
Yeah. And
did you come back to Kansas City to go to college then when you left Mizzou?
Yeah, I left Mizzou and came back to UMKC and finished off there, the block school.
Okay.
So
awesome. So before TruckUp, let's actually step back here for a second. What was the first business that you ever started, and why did you start that business?
Yeah, the first legitimate business, I would say, I've had a ton of ideas on and off stuff, you really never pursue, or just smaller stuff like mowing lawns when you're young. Yep. So I've always had an entrepreneurial heart and just a drive to do something. So I started movers when I was 21. That's my first legitimate business, I would say.
So you graduated college and immediately started working on movers.
Yeah.
Okay. What got you interested into a moving company?
Yeah, coming out of college, you're not really equipped with much from business school. If you went to an engineering school or something else, I would say you might be better equipped to do something. So having no real world experience, like, you don't know what to do. And my dad has just taught us from a young age to work hard. And moving, I thought I could do that better than everybody else. I was like, I could put effort into this and just do a better job. Like, you just come out naive. You don't know what you're doing and you just get started. And that's, I had no other ideas. So that's the first one that came into my mind. And
so did you start this by yourself with a friend?
I started by myself. I bought a truck, bought some phone book ads, didn't really know what we were doing. The truck was parked in a gravel parking lot, not too far from my house. I lived at home with my parents at the time, and I had an office that barely fit a chair in it. So I would do my work from there, start taking phone calls and, just day by day improving and growing the business.
So you started out on your own and started moving. So how did you scale this business? Because you guys scaled pretty quickly.
Yeah. So going from 0 moves to about 5,000 moves in 3 cities.
Wow.
Over 10 years is a pretty big goal for
very, very good.
Yeah. So just day by day, like, the biggest thing with entrepreneurship is you don't know what's going to get thrown your way. And you have to have the agility to not only take the hits, but figure out something that's going to work. And, I had no idea what would work. You just have a drive. I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs have heart and, the drive to get something done. So, I started off on the truck. I started doing moves. We didn't know what we were doing. A move that should have taken 2 hours probably took us 8 hours. Yep. I remember just loading this thing up, and we had these massive trucks, and you could stack them floor to ceiling, but if you don't know what you're doing, you have like a 3 foot tall dresser and you got 12 feet of space to put stuff in. Like,
That's money.
yeah. So the problem with the moving and storage industry, especially from the local standpoint, is pretty much everyone was hourly. So we just got into it, tried to think of different ways to do things. So we were some of the first people to really start doing fixed price moving. So we would go give estimates and houses, inventory the stuff, and give people an actual fixed price. Very difficult to do. There's a lot of complex things with the industry. But we started off, and I started in the truck, and then we ended up, after 10 years, we had 3 locations, we had franchise docs, we had a whole software platform built. And
did you guys build your own software platform, or did somebody else build that?
Yeah, we started with a company and we just really weren't pleased with it. We thought we could do better, so we ended up building our own. Hired some in-house software developers, some guys overseas, and we ended up building that all out.
That's
Whole CRM
awesome.
system, sales, quoting, booking, like a lot of logic in that software. So that in itself is a big learning experience. And I'm writing software now, and I'm still learning. Like it's a difficult process.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. I am very, I guess I am not tech savvy at all. Anytime that comes up, I start to stress out because I have no clue what's going on. So you kind of taught yourself how to start working in tech then.
Yeah. Hopped on some tutorials, spent a lot of years doing that, figuring out front-end development, trying to figure out like what software is, like what you need. And everybody's idea is like, hey, can you build me this app? Like make it out to be a lot easier than you really think it is. And it's a lot more complex than that. And there's a lot of frameworks that make it easier nowadays, but still, if you want to build something at enterprise scale, like you need a lot of people, and a lot of people very specialized in skills and different aspects of the software. And I only
Which costs a lot of money.
Oh yeah, a lot of money. And then finding
how did you guys come up with those resources?
When I was at the moving company?
Yeah, movers.
Yeah. So when I started there, I started down this one path. I contracted it out to a company that was going to build the software, and they did an awful job. So I was fortunate to reach out to a friend from high school, and he connected me with another individual that was graduating from MU, and I pretty much lucked out. I got a young kid who was ambitious, and I talk about it's hard to develop software all on your own, but this kid, he did a lot, and he ended up building quite a bit of our software out just all on his own. So we got a good start there, and I was just fortunate to find him. After that, we started hiring on more people to be able to continue to scale the system, but I would just say I was fortunate from the start.
That's awesome. What motivated you, or why did you sell, and how did you make the transition from a moving company into Truck Up, which you're working on now and have been for the last several years?
Yeah. So 10 years in the moving business is a lot. If you don't have the infrastructure in place and the right people in place, it's difficult. You've got a lot of different things that you need to manage. And the majority of people out there are the bigger companies, the national van lines, doing most of the national moves. Those guys do really well just because of the price point of those. You usually have companies paying for people to relocate. And I'm not for sure of the trends right now and how much money is being, spent to relocate people, especially after COVID. But back in the day, like they would charge ridiculous sums of money and companies would pay it. So the local game was a lot more difficult. You would do moves, and you were dealing with people that were stressed out. Like they say, death, taxes, and moving are like the 3 most stressful events in your life. So yeah, if you want to see if you could, really handle entrepreneurship, and if you want everything to be easier after the fact, like get into the moving industry, you'll learn a lot quick. But 10 years really took its toll on me. Being a young entrepreneur, like I didn't know what I was doing. Just doing things that weren't really that smart, things that didn't scale, and I just got burned out of it. So after 10 years, I put it up for sale.
And as an entrepreneur, if it's continues to be hard to scale. You keep bashing your head against the wall. You're always wanting that next thing or that next level. So it's almost like, okay, is this really where I want to be? Because you have that burn and desire to always be doing that next thing, right?
Yeah.
So I can already tell that, okay, you're burned out. What was the drive or the passion behind starting Truck Up? Did you guys have problems at the moving company? Did you have friends in the trucking industry? What? I mean, that is a very random niche industry to get into.
Yeah, we started out as a customer of MHC. They're like Murphy Hoffman companies,
Yep.
big
Based out of
company.
Kansas City, right?
Yeah, based out of Kansas City. They they've got quite a few locations, a big dealership, and
They're
we
massive.
yeah, massive. We were running our trucks as much as we could. I mean, we would go late into the night, and having the downtime was a problem. So you would take a truck, and when it needed service, you would need to take that truck to the dealership, have two people take it there, drop it off, have the one person driving back, and then, I mean, you'd wait a week or two sometimes to get your truck back, and
Now,
downtime's
real quick on that, downtime is the most expensive problem for truckers or trucking companies, correct? You want that
yeah,
truck to be on the road moving at all times if you can.
yeah. I mean, you don't want that asset just sitting there. Like it's too expensive to just, have that truck sitting and nobody using it. So there was a big need for that. So we reached out to MHC, and MHC really didn't have a division to start with, but they started for us doing mobile repair. And this was, I don't know, a long while ago, 2006 or so. Yeah. So they started doing mobile repair for us. They would do our services when our trucks were down. They got like one of their first service trucks, and they started doing stuff for us. And um, we ran into some issues. Their software wasn't good, and the manager of the Kansas City location at the time said, he admitted like the software is not great. That's the reason why we're running into these issues. And he's like, maybe you should build the software for us. And I kind of got the idea at that point, like, yeah,
Spark went off in your head.
yeah. And I mean, on our national moves too, like we would run into issues for the mobile service. Like we would break down, you would call people, you'd be waiting for 6 hours, they'd still never show up. No one would show up. There just wasn't a lot of transparency and reliability built into the system. So I'd been thinking for quite a long time of getting into that space and, starting the mobile repair, but I had so much on my plate at the time that I just stuck with the moving industry and kept chugging along with that.
So 2016 comes along. You
Yeah.
sell this moving company. Do you immediately start Truck Up then? Or did you take some time away? What's this look like?
I've always had ideas. I wanted to get into Truck Up. I started on it. My brother wanted to start a restaurant, so
Oh, the old restaurant business.
yeah. So I started a pizza place. It was called Pinsa, Pinsa, and Pinsa
Okay.
like Roman style pizza. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's great pizza.
Was that in Kansas City or where was that at?
So I started in Lee Summit.
Okay, awesome. Good market.
Yeah. Yeah, I started it, beautiful build out, dropped a ton of money into it. I ended up losing about 800,000 in the pizza
Oh.
business. Yeah. So it's, I mean, if you look at it, it was great. It was like the Chipotle of pizza. And a lot of companies started coming out at that time. The Mod, the Pi 5.
Yep.
We had great pizza, and the problem was like to manufacture the dough was very difficult. Like pizza, this Roman style pizza is a very particular type of dough that's difficult to work with. So it's like has a 72-hour leavening process where the dough rises over 72 hours, and it's a high hydration dough. So it's super like sloppy to work with, and not many people can deal with it. And the way you actually press this stuff out, it's hard to build in systems where you're going to be able to scale that. And if we would have got enough restaurants, we would have been able to do that. But
I was going to say scale in the restaurant business is the number one thing. And then when you have a hard product, I could only imagine how important scale really is when you're messing with a hard dough like that. You would really need to be able to scale to make it somewhat cost effective.
Yeah. It was tough. Not my business. I'm not, I mean, I like cooking food and stuff, but the restaurant industry, like
It's
my
tough.
heart wasn't in it. So worked through the 5 years of the lease, ended up selling it a couple. I would say we sold it like year 3 or 4. Got out of that, sold it to one guy, he sold it to another guy, and then it just ended up failing. So
Was that a downtown Lee Summit, or where was that?
it was right off Chipman and 50 Highway. So there's there's a Target over there and everything.
Hospital, everything else.
Yeah. Location was another problem. You would think it'd be a good location, but the way that shopping center is designed, like it really constrains traffic, so nobody can get in and out of it.
Yeah.
So that was another big problem that we were dealing with. There just wasn't any parking space there. Like at first sight, everything seems good, but like I said, like you really don't understand your niche after you've been in it for a long while. And just that's been my problem in entrepreneurship. Like I would hop into things and I wouldn't stick with them very long. And if you don't do that, like you're not going to scale your business or understand.
And you got to have your heart, like you said a minute ago, your heart wasn't in it. And that is, as an entrepreneur, you've got to have your heart in it, or else you will be looking for that next thing always if you're not 100% in on it.
No,
and I deal with that as well as an entrepreneur, and it's definitely something you got to watch and make sure that you're constantly doing what you really believe in or like, because
it
will fail quickly.
Yeah, it makes a world of a difference. Like if you want to get up and do something, whereas you get up and dread doing something. Like if you dread it, like my recommendation is to exit as soon as you
get out as quick as you can. Yep. Stop the losses. So you sold the pizza business. This would have been a couple years after, so 2019 or so.
Sometime around then. Yeah.
Okay. And you started Truck Up.
No, I did. I was flipping some houses for a while. So.
There we go. Now you're talking my language.
Yeah. And that was another thing. Like just got in it too quick. The appeal of it on TV is really good. Like, but like actually getting into it, it's pretty cutthroat.
100%. It's not pretty cutthroat. It's very cutthroat.
Very cutthroat. Yeah.
HGTV is as fake as it comes, and everybody wants to do it, and a lot of people get burned.
Oh yeah. And if you want to do it right, that's another issue. Like a lot of these guys, they buy houses and they'll pay a little bit more because they'll go in and cut corners and not pay for the permits and do stuff like that. And I've never been the one just to do business for a profit. I always, want to be passionate about it and build something that really represents myself. That was kind of hard with the moving industry for me, just because it's so difficult. Like you want to tie your name to something and you do a really phenomenal job of it, but no matter what you do, people aren't going to be satisfied or happy at the end of the day. There's always people that are going to be complaining, and just the percentage of people that are stressed out, like that's not the industry that I wanted to be in. And now in the truck repair business, like we help out a ton of people, and they're super thankful to get back on the road. So my heart's really here, and we can really build a quality product and service around it.
How long did you flip houses?
It wasn't too long. I ended up I had a handful of houses out there. They were relatively inexpensive houses, but I had like 500 to 750,000 to these houses. I got involved with someone who I thought would be a good partner. And I bought all these at once, and then I was getting ready to sell them all. I was going to profit out pretty good. And this individual came and did something criminal, and he filed affidavits of equitable interest on each one of the houses.
Oh no.
Yeah. To cloud the title right as they were closing.
Was he upset? What happened?
He's just a con artist.
God, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. No, it was a good learning experience. You don't know this stuff until you get into it.
Yep.
You got to stick with it. I mean, my recommendation for anybody starting a business is to just start small, and then just learn your way to do things. Like don't jump into it if you don't know enough about it. But that was my problem. I just jumped into it. I had too much trust. I've always had a lot of trust in people.
That's my flaw as well, I would say. I want the best out of everybody, and it ends up burning you in the end.
Oh yeah. And there's a lot of people that you think are great people, and then they turn out to be awful. So this guy ended up being one of those people, but he filed all these affidavits, and it's the easiest way you can cloud a title. Like you just basically go and you file this affidavit and say, hi, I've got an equitable interest in this property. And there's not much you can do to get out of it quickly.
No.
It usually takes about 6 months for
And
you
lawyer fees and everything else.
Yeah. And we had all these under contract, so he knew what he was doing. So he clouded those titles. I wasn't able to sell them. We tried to serve him to try and expedite things. But his door was covered with process server paperwork. Like,
he knew how to play the game.
Yeah. A lot of people were after this guy. So yeah, we ended up filing litigation. I can't remember how we stayed in contact with him or how he actually got the documentation, but he's like, this is some pretty hefty claims. And like, we hit him hard with the claims, and finally he came and ended up settling. He walked away with one of the houses, which was kind of crazy, but yeah, but we
just wanted to be done.
Yeah. At that point, I was like, this one's not for me either. So
now you start Truck Up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we start Truck Up. Yeah. So so I started Truck Up.
What made you go back to Truck Up? You just were sitting there thinking, okay, I've done all these other things, they aren't working. This was a cool idea that I remember back in the day. I should do it now. Or what kind of got that drive and inspiration to go back into doing this?
Yeah, I mean, Truck Up's always been sitting there. I ended up, I had a friend who wanted to start it a while back, and I can't remember when that was. That was like 2010. So I think we had some filings in 2010. And then I just kept with the moving company. So I didn't end up starting it there. And then in April of 2020, I ended up filing paperwork to start it. But I would say we really started like on software development in 2021. And then, we've been in the business for about 2 years now. So
you guys are essentially a mobile platform that drivers or companies can get on this platform and request a mobile mechanic. Is that correct?
Yeah, the idea is to be a peer-to-peer platform. It's difficult to build out both sides of the platform at once, because if you don't have the mechanics, and you can't get the business, and if you don't have the business, you can't get the mechanics.
Yeah.
So we're very methodical when we go into a new market. With how we enter that market, how we get the advertising, how we bring on the mechanics. And we have half of the platform built out right now. So we just have it for the providers. We don't actually have a truck driver application because we don't have scale. Truck drivers travel nationwide. So if you want to be top of mind, like, you better have coverage nationally. A guy's not going to remember you if you got a couple select locations in the Midwest. So once we get scale, we'll end up building out the truck driver side of the platform.
Got it. What's your guys' service range? So you guys are in the Kansas City metro. I believe you go a little further out. What's your service range and response time typically?
Yeah. So typically a 50-mile radius of whatever city we're in. We're in a handful of cities: Columbus, Ohio, Indianapolis, St. Louis, Kansas City, Dallas, Houston.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You guys are moving fast.
Yeah, we're in about 10 cities right now. So,
okay.
Yeah, we'll travel in about a 50-mile radius. I would say each one of our markets usually starts out with roadside work. Then we get a couple clients bigger companies who realize, hey, these guys do a really good job. And then they usually call us out to actually service their trucks on site where their company is.
So, Caleb, what unique challenges are you guys facing in the mobile truck repair, and how has Truck Up innovated to address these challenges?
So a lot of the issue is supply and demand, like making sure that you've got enough mechanics, making sure you have reliable mechanics. There's really no accountability in that space. So building the software out, building the rules of engagement, maintaining ratings, just really having some key metrics that you measure to make sure people are on time, make sure people are doing a good job, and building those automations into the software is a big way that we handle a lot of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And another question I guess I would have, there's a lot of proprietary parts in the trucking business. How, you know, and a lot of them have been on back order for the past couple of years because of all the shipping issues and whatnot. How have you guys gone about slimming that gap, I guess, in these parts that are, you know, the long delay times on trucks that are out there? Are you guys over ordering stuff so that your mechanics have them on their trucks for the repairs, or do you keep backup of so many parts that you know you're going to need? What's that kind of look like logistically?
You know, the common parts that we do keep, we have a handful of common parts that we do keep. The majority of things for roadside service usually are pretty easy to get. Some of the stuff does take some more time. A lot of times what we're doing, if we run into those situations, we're getting the truck to a point where they can get it off, or get it back to where they need to get it to.
Do you have a time, you know, that you can kind of tell us about where TruckUp has really stepped in, helped the driver that needed some kind of customer satisfaction? What's that look like for you guys? Because from what I'm seeing, your customer satisfaction is very strong.
Yeah, I mean, every day that's a big point for us. You know, making sure we're giving reliable estimate times, making sure we're sending good guys out that can actually complete the job. You know, make sure we're transparent with the customer, and that's how we've developed into like a lot of these big relationships with bigger trucking companies. Yeah, so just, I mean, quality service is one of the biggest things for us.
How are you guys staying competitive when it comes to your hourly rates, and you know, what's that look like compared to the industry standard? Are you guys pretty competitive, I would assume?
Yeah, our rates are usually a lot lower than most of
Oh,
the dealerships that you're dealing with. Dealerships have a lot of overhead. They've got a lot of physical shop that they've got to pay for, a lot of capital expenditures, whereas we just have a truck. So our costs are a lot lower, so we're able to actually service these vehicles for a lot less expense. And one of the biggest things is the cost of a tow is usually the cost of what it called us to come out is.
oh, okay.
So we
Wow.
still, yeah, we save truck drivers quite a bit of money in towing fees by being
And
able to.
time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, if you call a shop up and you've got to wait at a shop, I mean, a lot of times you're waiting, 2 to 4 weeks out before your truck gets repaired.
What's your guys' average turnover on a repair, time-wise?
Most of our repairs are usually within, I would say, 2 to 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So you're essentially, the repairs you're doing, they're back on the road about maybe within half a day or so,
yeah, yeah. At most.
versus having to sit there, wait for a few hours for a truck to a tow truck, then bringing them to the shop, then hoping to get it in the same day, which probably isn't going to happen. So several days they would be waiting if they didn't have you to come do this mobile repair.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the biggest problems, and that's the problem that we ran into as a moving company. Like, we would break down and we would not be in Kansas City, so we didn't know who to call. And a lot of times we would pay to get our truck towed to a service shop, and it would sit there for weeks. The part
Wow.
issues were a big issue. A lot of times our guys get creative on the road. I mean, there's certain times where, parts have been unavailable for months. So we would improvise, and some of the systems have like pipes similar to what you can find at Home Depot and stuff. So we would improvise, get the guy back on the road until he would be able to get the part that he needed. So there's a lot of improvisation that happens out there as well.
What percentage of repairs that you guys handle are due to treatment issues from previous repairs? Because what I've heard is there's a quite a few times in the trucking industry where repairs weren't done right, and the same thing would happen over and over again. So do you guys see a lot of that, or is that not correct?
No, we see a lot of that.
They're kind of putting duct tape on these repairs and hoping that they last for a little bit.
Yeah, there's some big national brands that people take their trucks to, and they always refer them to a dealership, or they try to do something, they don't do it right. So we get
So,
called out a lot of times when they break down, 5 miles down the road. So it
so
happens.
quality is a big push for you guys internally.
Yeah, making sure we've got guys that can, get the repairs done. Diagnostic equipment is big nowadays. There's a lot of electronic systems. There's exhaust systems and stuff that you've got to deal with, and a lot of people don't really understand how to work with that stuff. So making sure the guys are knowledgeable on that stuff is very important.
What are some trends you guys are observing in the truck industry? We heard back during COVID, there aren't enough truckers. And now we're seeing, some big trucking companies like Yellow. They just filed bankruptcy, and they had a couple hundred locations across the country. What are you guys seeing right now? Is the trucking industry in a good position? Is it in a bad position? I mean, what's that look like?
The economy seems to be running hot. I think there's a lot. The trucking space isn't down by any means. I think in terms of finding people to drive trucks, finding mechanics, I think there's definitely a shortage on the labor front. We haven't seen a shortage in business at all. But I think especially as drivers continue to age, there's going to be a big issue with getting freight delivered. And I think autonomous trucks are a ways out too. So
yeah, I think they're a lot further out than what a lot of people are thinking. There's a lot of stuff they're going to have to overcome when it comes to not having a driver behind the wheel. I mean,
yeah.
It is possible, and it probably will be something. But I'm seeing some things where there are some federal regulations, I believe, and I could be making this up, but where it is required to have a driver behind a wheel. Well, the way they're getting around that is, okay, we'll have somebody in India or wherever else on a computer driving this truck then. So there is somebody operating that vehicle technically. Although they're not in the vehicle, they're still the ones operating it, which is crazy to me to think about. But have you heard that, or is that real?
No, I've not heard any of that, but
Yeah, I was doing some reading on the Tesla semis and everything else, and that's one of the ways that they're planning on kind of getting around this federal regulation of an operator has to be behind the wheel on a highway, and that's kind of their plan, I believe, to get around that.
Yeah, because I know they're like intrastate, so within a state, like I know I've seen autonomous trucks like Nevada, I think. But yeah, the interstate regulations, the federal regulations, I'm not really haven't kept up on that. But yeah,
they're very unique regulations, man. It's a crazy industry.
Yeah, for sure.
What are your guys' future plans when it comes to, future developments or expansions, especially in the context of growing demands in the trucking industry? What are you guys looking at?
So from a platform standpoint, national scale is something we're looking to get to. We're really building out the software processes right now. We've got quite a few software developers that work for us, but building out those rules of engagement and those automations to help us really get quality providers on the platform, that's key. Once we build out a lot of those automations, we'll be able to scale to other markets, and then hopefully build up a solid brand where we're top of mind for people when they break down. Right now, you've got to be scrappy when you're a smaller business. Like from an advertising perspective, like there's things that you've got to do to get your brand out there, and really having an established brand in any business is key to being able to scale a business. So the brand aspect is really important to us, and making sure we provide quality service. It starts there.
What's your personal goal with Truck Up?
My biggest thing is I want to grow it. I want to see it grow nationally. I mean, one day an exit from it, that's probably 10 years from now. But yeah, I would like to see national scale. We haven't taken on any equity. It's just been myself.
Wow. Good for you. That is not cheap.
No. Well, we were profitable pretty quick though, which is good.
Awesome.
Yeah, I feel like the more businesses you start, the faster you understand how things work, and the smarter you really get. I mean, at the end of the day, it's running these smaller experiments that aren't costing you a lot of money, and it's being able to iterate quickly and see what works and improve on top of that. So this time around, yeah, I was able to take this business and not have to put too much money into it and get it profitable fairly quickly.
That's awesome. So are you guys making a little bit of a cut on the hourly rates that you're charging, I would assume. That's kind of how you become profitable.
Yeah, I mean, we take a spread between, what we pay the mechanic and the
And what they
service.
get paid. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that makes complete sense. What you know, how do you go about scaling this into all cities? How many people are going to have to bring on? What kind of growth are you guys going to have to see to be able to get to all 50s? I guess not all 50 cities, but 50 states and multiple cities within those states.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on how good the automation is for the platform. I think the core of it has to happen there. Managing individual mechanics requires a lot of effort. So you've got to build in the incentive structures for these guys to actually get to the jobs quick, do a good job. So you really tie a lot of metrics to pay. So we've got like reward systems within the application we're building out. We're building in leaderboards, certain things that the guys can do to get awards and goals and stuff of that nature. So that's super important.
Taking
Really,
care of your people is number one.
yeah. So once we get that done, it won't be super difficult to scale. Nobody really, like I said, it's a highly fragmented industry. There's a lot of mom and pop shops out of there. They run these trucks. A lot of guys run out of their pickup trucks. So as we start setting a higher standard and building a brand and becoming a national brand, we're going to be more top of mind for people to call us first, especially these bigger fleets, because bigger fleets hate having to call around to like 10 different places.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is us providing the insight to the fleet as well. So once we have all this real-time information of, where the provider is, who's the best provider for the job, do they have the right tools for the job? Once we have all that information, we can feed that into our system and to the fleet portal that individuals can use, and they could type in an address and see, hey, there's a guy available right now, or there's a guy that might be available in 2 hours, and book right from there and have full transparency into what's actually happening.
What's your biggest issue with scaling right now? Is it finding the labor force out there to be able to continue to scale?
We really don't have that issue. Most mechanics are making around like $28-30 an hour. Our guys, although they are contractors, they make over $65 an hour on average.
Are you hiring?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of guys that want to work for us and they stick with us. We put them in a nice truck.
So you guys own the trucks, or you guys provide the trucks. You may not own them, but you guys are providing your own trucks for Truck Up.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. So you can come on as a contractor who has your own truck. If you if you have a service truck, a service body, a compressor, and like we'll set your skills up and capabilities up in the system for what you can do. But then we also have individuals that we purchase the trucks, we brand the trucks, we make sure they're to our specification. So as we start to get bigger, there'll be a bigger divide between our trucks and the contractor trucks that are actually running out there, just because we have a lot more control over what the standard is with our trucks, and we'll feed our guys those jobs first and then go to like a third party contractor network for jobs that we can't actually facilitate.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. We're getting a little long here, so I want to wrap this up. This is super interesting to me. I'm really excited about what you guys are doing. When it comes to entrepreneurship, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs? You founded and started many companies, done all kinds of things. You're still young. I mean, what's the number one piece of advice that you've got?
The biggest thing is have grit. Like, ideas are cheap. I have a lot of intelligent friends who always talk about doing things,
Mm-hmm.
and they never do anything. And the problem is people think they know what a business is, or they think they know what they're going to do. And when you get into something, what you set out to do is not what you end up doing. The world's a lot more complex than people make it out to be. I mean, you think, oh, I could start a truck repair business. And I've had plenty of guys who have spun off and have tried to do it on their own. And they come back and say, hey, I want to work for you. Like, there's a lot more complexities that happen in the world that our brain just simplifies. And to really be effective at anything, you've got to get out there, you've got to start, and you've got to just keep going. Don't give up. It's going to take, a decent amount of time to get anything done, but just have the grit and perseverance to get things done. That's at the end of the day, that's what matters.
That was one of the best responses I've heard. I couldn't agree more, Caleb. And we're going to end it with that actually, because we can't beat that right there.
Yeah.
So, Caleb, tell the people where they can find you or how they can learn more about Truck Up if they're interested.
Yeah. So, truckup.com. I'm not really on many social channels or anything like that. So this is my first podcast. So I appreciate you guys having me here. But just truckup.com if you want to check us out or you have any interest. And then if you want to shoot an email off, I pretty much read through all the emails. So info@truckup.com if you want to reach out.
Awesome. Well, Caleb, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah. Thank you guys as well. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch. Have a great one.
All right. You too, guys.